So you came out here around 1947, and how did you go for an interview, or how did that work?
Well, I had no place to go when I got off the bus, so I went into Queen's Hotel, and that's where I got all the information. They said I could go to this place and get work in there, which I did.
What was your first job in there?
My first job in there, I was the elevator guy. Run up and down the stairs with boxes.
And how many times a day would you go up and down the stairs?
I really wouldn't know. This was steady all day.
Yeah. So what were you carrying actually, the wood or
Boxes.
the actual boxes?
Yep, the actual boxes.
In 1947, what were they making in that factory at that time?
They were making silverware boxes and also table. They made little tables with glass tops.
Oh.
And they worked for 6 days a week. They worked Saturdays. And sometime on Saturdays I was asked to go upstairs at the top floor and polish glass.
Polished glass.
Have the glass all polished
Yeah.
for the
Oh.
tables.
So what's the best job you ever had in the factory?
There wasn't such a thing.
What's the worst job you had in there?
Running that big loud machine,
What machine was that in?
the automatic shaker. That was very loud.
Do you remember how much you were making when you started there?
Oh, I don't know what I should tell you, or the banker will be after you. 72 cents an hour.
That was around 1947. Did you ever do piecework in there?
Always, except when you were carrying the boxes.
So how'd that work with piecework?
For the people. Trap came in, and he was working on a saw, pushing the wood through the saw. And I told the foreman, I says, buddy over here is a little tipsy. The foreman went over and talked to him and came back. No, he says, he's okay. When you turned around again, the guy was walking towards him with the blade went between his fingers.
Jeez.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's
Were there many people that lost fingers in there?
quite a few, mostly on saws, shakers.
What was Grant Cooper like to work for?
Great, a great guy. Very quiet, very, very nice.
What was it like when you knew the plant was closing in 1988, 89? What was it like working there then?
It was a lot slower. Started at what they call the back shop, with rough wood, just rough lumber, and you'd put it through the machines in there, cut it to size, plane it, and then it would go into the next room, and it would be glued together for different sizes of boards. And when I was out of there, piled on these trucks, push it in the other room, and start making up the boxes. Put it through the machine, making the joints and everything. And then it would go back into another little room off of the middle floor, off of the middle room, and they would put the bottoms in and glue the tops on. It would just become a square box, just a rough box. And then that would have to be shaped in that same room. And then we'd go on to the next room after it was shaped, and then you go into the sanders and all this stuff. And then somebody would pick them up and take them upstairs, and they'd start the staining and all this stuff. They used birch, mahogany, walnut, basswood, willow, The orders were 1,000, depending on the size of the box. You'd make 1,000 at the time, and that's usually an order of what they would put out.
And how many would they make in a day, roughly?
I suppose right out of the shipping, they'd probably ship out. They made jewelry boxes and they silverware. Mostly a lot more silverware, I believe, than jewelry. At one time, it was all silverware.
Robert Crowley.
And Charles, when did you start working at and why?
1976, I was barbering on the main street here, and that was back in the day of long hair, and business was pretty bad. And over a period of time, both Grant Cooper and Jack Adams used to say, well, why don't you come and work for us? And so finally, business was really bad, and Jack said, well, why don't you come and work for us? I thought, okay, it's going to be a doable thing. And so I went over there, and I was hired as a foreman in training. The foreman was John Scott. The assistant foreman was Fred Cooch. They were getting up there, and so that was pretty well prevalent through the plant. There was a lot of older, the older foremans were getting, the foremans were older, and so there was a little bit of a transitional phase while they brought in some younger people. My father, George, he worked there until he passed away in '56. I'm not sure, he was there most of his working life. There was a few breaks, and Mr. Smith had an anger issue, and every so often people would get angry and quit, and so my father was one of them, and he worked in different places, but he always went back to there.
Remember your starting salary when you started there?
Yes, it was $5, and at the time I figured I was working for $3.50 when I was barbering.
Oh yeah.
So I thought, this is this is okay.
Yeah. What was your first job there? Were you
Well, I was like I say, I was training to be a foreman down the road. Didn't know where that was going to be, if it did in fact happen. So I would be cutting cardboard on the guillotine. It was a big machine, and you brought down the handle. It's on the movie picture, and so cutting things to size and getting things all ready to take to the assemblers.
What things stick in your mind about the working environment?
I could never say anything bad about in there. Was it dangerous at times? Sure. We didn't know any better. We had a couple of machines that were very dangerous to work on after, and we were punching out slots for the silverware, and that machine was very dangerous. But it was just a great time, and it was all, with the exception of a couple of men, it was all women, and we had a good time up there. Originally, lumber out in the yard, they would bring in raw lumber and cut it and plane it to size, and cut it all down, and they end up making the jewelry boxes or silverware cases downstairs, shaped them all, and sanded, did the whole that part, and then they brought them up to the second floor where they're prepped for staining, and then after that they come up to our floor for assembly. When they came up to our floor, they were tops and bottoms were loose, so we had to put them together. We had to put hardware on them, and then assemble the linings inside. They were shipped At that time, we were shipping to every major department store. Burke's was the prime place. They were the fussiest company. Eaton, Simpson's. Then along came a dramatic change that we had to do. Well, say Burke's, for instance, would want 10 of this for Toronto, 10 of this for Oshawa, 10 of this for Ottawa. So we were in effect became a storage place for these places. We had to kind of guess.
Maybe I worked there for 15 years and then I was expecting and I was off for a few years and then I went back again. I went down to visit them at the factory and Johnny Scott asked me if I'd like to come back, so then I started back in there. So I think all told maybe I worked there for 25 years.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
Can you tell us what the process is? What did you start doing there to do that dipping, and how did it work? What did you actually do?
well, there was a machine that heated the glue and melted the glue, and then you put the material through, and then you laid cardboard on top of that and turned it in. But everything was all glued.
Oh. So were you like working with glue all day?
Yes.
Did you have a mask or anything?
No, but the glue was kind of stinky.
So did you ever notice any problems from doing that, as far as breathing or?
No. But it was very hard in the wintertime because if it wasn't that warm in there, the glue wouldn't stick, so we'd have a lot of problems, especially in the winter.
So how did you compensate for that?
Well, I have to close the doors and get the room a little warmer. And
I
so
worked there for, what, probably close to 30 years, and they were all there. But I never went in there with a bottle.
somebody else's hands you're getting, you know? And on the side, you don't need to take that. This takes quite a while to make. A lot of little parts.
I just thought I'd pack up a little doggy bag. I know it's kind of small, but what do you think? Have you got any meatballs?
There's not one left.
You're kidding.
Nope, they all
They were
gone.
good. I was gonna get one for Pam.
Yeah, there's nothing left. The only thing that left is pineapple and juice.
But the art of assembly.
Yeah, I
She's
think
gonna.
so.
Myrtle's gonna make a tape. The art of assembly. Buy the tape for $29.95.
I have to come over here to get my thingamajigers. I gotta keep them
Power
because
seats
they're
on.
cracking. Yeah, I guess it's because we didn't have to go out, eh?
I think it's because we didn't have to go out.
Yeah.
That's fine.
As I say, I need some of those ones.
Well, don't you have any?
No. I don't.
Myrtle, can I have a drawer back?
There, I've got one left. Have you got one or you don't?
I got one.
Got one. Okay.
I got one, but I don't.
You don't. There you go, girl.
Well, this is one I just trimmed this.
Yeah,
See
yeah. Oh, you just can't, you just go in
See how, what do you think of it?
borders and everything, you know, you're doing it when you put it in. It's long.
It does doesn't feel so sad.
It's probably long, it's just the hair that goes on. I hope this bracket doesn't crack on me. It's my glue up here. It's supposed to be there. Okay.
Because I didn't want to take over the plant. I didn't, there was a lot of headaches, there was, people, just to have 100 or 120 employees was more than I wanted to take on at 36 or 37 years old, so, and we're in General Motors territory, and there was the Darlington nuclear plant, there was the Chrysler trim plant, there was Goodyear, and everyone was making big bucks and wage and benefits, and our fellows just, we weren't able to pay that. And towards the end, the last 2 or 3 years, we had a 20% turnover rate, and it just killed us. It did. And the plant was old. It should have all been on one floor. The equipment was older. There was more modern ways of doing it, and we were just a bit of a dog that had its day a bit. And it was a shame. It was, and it really bothered Grant the last few years because he was hoping I'd take it over, and I could see the future, and it didn't look good. Sales, the product sold itself. We didn't need to knock on doors or advertise or anything. We had tremendous repeat business with Henry Burks and Sons, People's Credit Jewelers, the Bay, Sears, Oneida, Heritage Silversmiths. The product sold itself, but we just couldn't get the help to make it. It needed to go through the factory once and out the door, and a lot of it went through the operations, and there would be rejects and poor quality, and they'd have to go back and rework it. And it just, when we closed down, when we finally made the decision to close down, I think there was just over 100 employees, 105, and we had to get down below 50 employees to shut down within a year once the decision was made. And when we went from 105 employees down to 50, production went up because the product was going through the plant once. The old hands were, like the old hires were handling it once, then it went on and out the door. And we couldn't believe it. It was the new people that we'd hired that hadn't been trained properly, that were creating low productivity, high rejects, a lot of rework that was killing us. And we wondered, should we stay in business at 50 people?
Yeah.
And take the cream of the crop as far as the accounts go, but the die had been cast and we followed through with it. So, and it was a shame really, and I played a big part in, we had tremendous inventory. There was a lot of one-offs and samples and old inventory that had been made for some of the customers that was sitting. And we were able to ship current inventory to our customers, but then there was still a lot of old stuff left. There was, even after the auction sale of the tooling and equipment and that, there was tremendous amounts of odds and ends that had been collected for 80 years. And it took every day and every weekend, that warehouse sale was open 365 days for a couple of years. It was. Yeah.
So how do you, I should ask your mom this too. How do you feel about what's there today on the property?
How do you feel?
About what you see there today?
I look at it when I go up by and I feel sad because there's so many memories. You know, like I can remember my parents talking about it at the supper table. And you were in that even though you weren't working there. But I'm glad it's something that's neat and clean on the main street rather than, and I always heard they kicked the Masseys out, like they donated this building to us in the town and then they wouldn't vote for it. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, no, they didn't kick the Masseys out.
They just didn't want implements on the main street.
No, the Masseys had, their business had gone so large that they couldn't do it anymore. They couldn't find enough workers here. And essentially, that's, okay Steve, we can stop a second.
You can leave the front door unlocked.
Okay.
Okay, I've got a group coming in and then I'll come into later, so
Sure.
just leave the front door.
Okay, thanks Steve. No, so that's not really the, you're right about the election. There was a 1923 they built the building and then Vincent ran locally, but this was always a very strong conservative area, so
Yes.
it never changed. So Chris, how do you feel about what you see there now?
I think it's good. I think it's great. Tenzin picked up and carried on with it, kept the building basically the way it is, you know, new windows and doors and new interior. It's great to see that. He poured a pile of money into it and more power to him. Yeah, no, it's great. It's exactly what the downtown needs, I think. Yeah. So.
See it close. I'd been there from the first. I hadn't been active in the business when Grant was. We just ran things the way it had always been run when Dad was alive, and it seemed to work. And we met at a dance in Bowmanville at the old armories. And he came up and said, "Hi, Jackie, how are you?" And I didn't know him from Adam. And we danced, and he was a nice dancer. I liked that, because I always went to that. I said to Chris when we were coming in, I said, "I'm not coming to a dance tonight." And I didn't know who he was, so I asked Mac Ransberry. Imagine you've heard of him.
Oh, yes.
I know Mac.
He's a politician. And I said, "Mac, who was that fella I just danced with?" He said, "Grant Cooper." And I said, "He's a good dancer." And that was, we met and we danced at dances for several years. And he was a farm boy, so he didn't have to go to war. His brother went to war. He had a brother that was killed, not in the war. But, and he had 2 sisters. So we finally got together, couples, I don't know how many years later. We were married in 51.
51.
And 2091 he died.
2001.
2001.
Yeah.
I get mixed up on the older dates.
Okay.
But no, we were married 50 years, but he died in January and our anniversary was October. So that year was, we didn't make it 50 years, but it was the 50th.